I think the reality these days is there's no longer always a mindset of a plan for a year versus adjusting the plan at least on a quarterly basis, if not monthly. And that's been a shift just in terms of our ability to look at data and understand what's working, what's moving the needle, what areas we can pour gas on. So it's moved away, I think, from this mindset as to here's our 2022 plan and here's everything we're going to do versus here's what we're able to look at from the most recent cohorts. And in turn, this is what we're going to do. Now, to answer your question, we absolutely, though, know our budget's going into the upcoming year, and we have rough ideas of where we're going to break that budget up in terms of high top of funnel lead generation versus more of an ABM journey flow into content buckets and product marketing buckets. And maybe the biggest one that I've seen growth in from a budget perspective is what we're doing from a customer marketing perspective. I really believe the pandemic pushed a lot of marketers to double down on customer marketing. And I think elements of that just come from the reality that a lot of businesses struggled to grow through the pandemic. Fortunately for us, that wasn't quite the case, but a lot of people weren't able to go and get net new growth. So going to your existing install base, customer base, user base, however you think about it, became the real key, both in terms of retention was more important than ever. When we can't grow, we got to retain our customers at a better rate. And second, the expansion opportunities might exist inside of that install base. For us, we have some amazing customers who have grown with us, doing one of two things, where in some cases we work with the same business group inside of an organization and we show them other ways to use our product. So in our case, we have some people who will come in and they'll start using us, say, for an inbound marketing perspective, which is fantastic. I mean, we help them take the content that's being found off SEO and SEM campaigns that they may be running, really top of funnel. At the same time, we have people who are using us either only or eventually for account-based marketing. And those account-based marketing is more about deeper into that funnel, more one-to-one engagement in collaboration with sales, not just marketing. So that's one instance where we can go to a customer and say, now you can not only use us for inbound, but also ABM, or not just ABM, also inbound. And we have about 5 different primary use cases like those two that I just mentioned. The other reality that we see a lot is that we can go into business group and look for other similar business groups when we are working with a true enterprise. So we work with some amazing brands and companies that have other business units, either tied to different product lines or sometimes different geographical focus or vertical based in terms of how they go to market. And our ability to show we were able to help your peers and colleagues in this business unit. How can we do the same? So to give you an example, one of the companies that uses us in the transportation space, massive organization, they actually helped us coordinate a one-day learning conference for their own team. Now, this wasn't just the team that was using us, this was other business units. And what was fantastic was the heroes who were using us were able to demonstrate the results, the impact they were able to make, not just with our software, but in the business. And then other business units were able to see it. And all of a sudden now you have more opportunity for us and that business to leverage our software. These are just a couple of ways that we can embrace customer marketing to really double down. We break up our revenue goals into different buckets, and some of which we've just been talking about. So one of our goals is tied to, our internal term for it is touch, but just means that we have to go out and we have to engage with that net new opportunity. Then we have an expansion bucket, and then we have an upsell bucket. Expansion is more the type of opportunities I was talking about with that day event, whereas upsell is more that existing business unit that wants to use it more, the former of the two that we walk through. And the reason that we break up our revenue goals in those ways is that we have different close rates on each of those different buckets. And as a result, we want to make sure we understand not just how much pipeline do we need in the business altogether, but how much pipeline do we need according to the different type of pipeline that's coming in. So our expansion deals and our upsell deals naturally close at a much higher rate than our net new touch deals, as I said, we call them. And that allows us to make sure that we don't just go and create a whole bunch of pipeline thinking it's all going to close at the same rate and then end up falling short. So that allows us to really plan not just our revenue goals, but back it out to pipeline and then back it out to the activities that we have to do to support. So first off, we're buying into that like everyone is, but I think it's more, where can we impact, which is change. There's still no question we need MQLs. And I think every business still needs MQLs. If you want to call it something else, great. But the idea is, what can marketing influence to get it to that point where it's ready to be nurtured in more of an account-based marketing type of way? Now, we also use a platform called 6 Sense here, which you may be familiar with. And that gives us different views of someone's maturity at different stages of where they are in terms of their engagement. But we're usually tracking that after the MQL stage in kind of a way, in terms of understanding, okay, how mature are they in terms of that qualification? And are they peaking in terms of different degrees of interest? So I wouldn't say that we rally day to day around the MQL the way we may have a few years ago, but it's still a metric that we're tracking. There's a couple ways that we look at content specifically. I think the biggest one that you hit on there is the importance of content and understanding the role of content in moving someone along the buyer journey. The reality is there's two different ways that we can look at it, more on a macro level and more on a micro level. By macro, what I mean is we create an amazing asset, an ebook, a video, an amazing blog post, and being able to understand how much impact that's having at a macro level, how many people are visiting that, what their next move is after that, what's the bounce rate, all these important metrics that we know as marketers. The other way to look at this, though, is more that micro view, and that's getting more into an attribution model where we can understand the role content has in moving someone through that buyer journey. Now, depending on how many accounts we're looking to close, anywhere from businesses looking at true mega deal mindset, 10 accounts and their year's done versus 10,000 accounts and their year's done, there's a different degree of how we're able to look into the weeds of that. So that's where we have to look at trends. We need to understand the role content has at different stages. The more we learn that, we're then able to start to take that input and use that to build a better repeatable journey for each next customer. So if we know that customers move from 60% opportunity in Salesforce to 80% of opportunity in Salesforce, and that 70% of them engage in a certain ebook, then let's start to feed that ebook on a repeatable basis to people at that 60% stage, because we start to learn that's what's helping to move someone through that journey. So we start to use that micro data in a couple of ways. One, understanding the flow of the deal. And that's a great exercise to do with your marketing team. Pull up a deal, look at it, whether you're using Salesforce, whatever you might be using, to start to see the flow that someone's going through as they engage in that content. I think a big part is best understanding some of the verticals and accounts that we're going after and having product marketing assets to help in those verticals. So for us, as an example, we have 4 key verticals that we go after in addition to our more mainstream go-to-market. So we have some specialty, as an example, in financial services. So understanding what that rep is going to encounter in terms of knowledge. And a lot of that happens both through research as well as collateral that we put together, both for internal use and for customer facing use. So the best way to start that often is even get on the phone with some of your existing customers in that industry, right? Make sure marketing is doing so. Learn about, the nuances of what's going on there. The other thing we can do is, leverage analyst relations. We were talking about the insights from analysts. Get on with the analyst who's covering that vertical, understand some of the trends. Then make sure you have the right collateral for internal, like some sort of wiki where they can understand the nuances of how your language is best interpreted by that vertical. But make sure at the end of the day that you have product pages that you can either run individual campaigns or you can direct people to for that nurture process that they're going to go through. Forecasting for us, it doesn't come down to purely on marketing or purely on sales. We're fortunate to have a revenue operations team. And it creates a holistic view of the entire operation and what we're trying to do. And it also removes a little bit of that finger pointing that we talked about earlier. The RevOps team is going to be that single source of truth. They're going to use our various systems that have insights to pull together dashboards for us to rely on and understand what we can count on. To be honest, I think it's an area that we probably could use some more insight. We hear about these more anecdotally. Those 600 emails was my VP of revenue at the time getting up at a team kickoff to say, in case you didn't know, this is what a deal actually looks like. And I think in that case, we're living more so in the details that are living inside of, say, a marketing automation platform versus sometimes the details that are living more fully either in your CRM or maybe not making it into the CRM if a rep's not doing a good job copying every one of those emails in to show that back and forth. And it's hard when there's that many emails to really understand what are they trying to get at. We probably have some blinders there. I think the best way that we do it now is just trying to ensure that we're having conversations on an ongoing basis to understand what those gaps are, what content, what assets may speed that up otherwise. From a budget perspective, we try and really lock in the budget at the beginning of the year, but that's by a department perspective. We trust at the end of the day, the executives in the different areas of the business, including marketing, to make fluctuations all year long. If more money belongs in a more ABM bucket versus a top of funnel bucket, because we're struggling on one side versus the other, there shouldn't be any hard and fast rules about that. But coming and saying, I need another head count at this point, and we didn't budget for that, those are things that are a lot harder to do. So I think it's working within the confines of the budget that you set on an annual basis, and then really having the ability, we think of it more quarterly to be fair, but I honestly believe it should be daily.